Hello, it's Scott Manley here. Now, people have been asking, why haven't you started your Real Scale Solar System series yet? And the reason is, I'm still trying to get everything to work. It has been a hilarious series of failures and fun little bits that I've had to learn. You can see in the background I have this marvellous cloudscape all over planet Earth, because this is of course not Kerbal. No, it's great in the Northern Hemisphere, but sadly, as in real life, the Southern Hemisphere has been left neglected and it doesn't work. So, Realism Overhaul for, Realism Visual Enhancements, whatever, for the Realism Overhaul, having some issues getting that to work. And also, I am having a terrible time getting shadows to work. And I've no idea what the heck is going on, because I've tried everything, but in OpenGL mode, which is needed, then I can't get shadows to work on the ground. So I can't see when I'm about to hit the ground, which is a serious problem. This is using an AMD R290X. I've tried everything. I've re-updated all the drivers. I've tweaked values, but if it works in OpenGL mode, it will not generate shadows on the ground, regardless of what I do. It's very much an issue. Anyway, I want to show you a bit about Realism Overhaul, Realistic Progression 0, which really is actually worth messing around with, simply because it changes so much in the game. So we've got, you know, some harder mods here. We have some realistic, what do you call it? We have obviously life support. We have Kerbal construction time, which means it's going to take a finite amount of time to build your bits and pieces. So I'm going to use RP0. So this is a recommended configuration for using Kerbal construction time with RP0. So let's see if that tells us a bunch of numbers and things like that. But the important thing is that I want to spend upgrades on my various parts. And since we're talking about a space program that's supposed to start in the 1940s or 50s, I'm actually going to concentrate on the spaceplane hangar rather than the launch pad. That seems to make more sense to me. So I'm just going to put a bunch of points into this. I could have a second one building here, but I think at this stage I'll go up to that, and then we'll put some points into R&D. Right, there we go. The rest of the points go into my R&D system. Okay, so what do we have in terms of career goals or missions? We don't have any. No, we only have active contracts in the early game. We have basically crew and altitude records. I like how this begins FAI, Federation Aeronautique International. I thought that the next letter was going to be L, right? But apparently not. Maybe we should. Federation Aeronautique Internationale Liberté. That's what you are free to fail. Okay. No, that's not any commentary on that particular group. I just thought it. So RP0, what do you give? Well, in terms of parts, you get a ton of parts. You get these very simple sounding rocket avionics packages, which let you run experiments and things like that, but they don't let you steer the rocket. The next step up is a guidance unit, which has a mass limit of 20 tons on being able to steer things. You also have a cabin for like a regular aircraft. So you can try building a propeller-driven aircraft early on. You have a bunch of fuel tanks, we have a prop-driven engine, a liquid-fueled engine, which is from the Aerobee rocket. The Aerobee rocket was a sounding rocket that was actually used for research. The Tiny Tim booster. Now, the Tiny Tim was actually an air-to-ground missile developed during World War II. I think, and it was actually used as the first stage for boosting early sounding rockets, because it was quite good at what it did, I would guess. Procedural parts here with limits. You immediately get access to fairings, so you shouldn't worry about that. Procedural batteries. A bunch of new experiments to try, and antenna. Obviously, this is working with remote tech. The parachutes I've had some serious trouble with, and EVA items we will get to later, I suspect. Okay, so let's start by working on our unmanned program here. So I'm just going to build a simple, solid, boosted rocket here. I'm going to take this. Oh wait, I don't know what way's forward on this. I think that's forward. Yes, that's the bottom here. So this is normally used as a booster. I'm going to throttle this thing back a little, and we'll just put we'll put the sounding rocket on the top. Hopefully that's pointing the right way. And I'm going to put a parachute on the top. Now, what do we have? well, this is our Mark 16 parachute. Unfortunately, it's rather large, but using the magic of procedural parts, I can scale this down to 0.313. It looks a little odd in that size form factor. I could make it smaller, or slightly bigger. I'm not sure that's going to work. I suspect that is going to fail horribly. Because procedural parts, when you make them small, have a habit of failing horribly. Let's put some basic fins on this. Oh wait, everything's super huge. Let's put 4 fins on this thing. There, look at that. I'm going to have to make these a little smaller. Scale these down 50% maybe. Make them a little weaker because we don't need all that extra mass. Hey, how about that? Okay, there is our spacecraft. We're going to point this at the sky and start testing it. Hopefully we'll be able to return it to the ground. So this is going to cost me 161 and it's going to take 46 days to build. So let's just, we could simulate it, but I think simulation costs 100, so I'm just going to build the darn thing, right? In the old days they didn't simulate things, they just built them and off they went. I'm going to save that and continue. So now it is the middle of the night, but we can of course run everything forward in time. So it's going to take 46 days, warp to complete. Don't look at this if you are susceptible to flashing lights and things like that, because that would have been really bad. I should have probably put that notice up front, right? Okay, no vessels under construction, now we can build more, but now we're going to launch our great ship, the Untitled Spacecraft. We've invited all the top brass to just watch this thing. Obviously we haven't put them too close because this thing may not stay in one piece. It tells us that we have insufficient avionics and the controls are locked, but the only thing that matters is the spacebar. There we go, look at that! Oh, so we got some speed there, and the whole thing broke up. Well, that's good to know. And we'll not be parachuting this thing back to base. And yeah, so we didn't even complete any of our contracts because this thing isn't going to get to any altitude that matters there. It's going to get up to about 300. Okay, time accelerate and watch it fall back to the ground. I like the way that this is spinning around the center of mass, which is clearly not a realistic center of mass for this. And the other bits. Nothing survived. Okay. Back to the space center. Well, it's a good thing the top brass were looking the wrong direction, because otherwise they might have been they might have decided that this spectacular launch was sufficient grounds for them to shut down the program. Okay, so that was all very interesting, but I think we need to make this a little bigger and taller and everything. So maybe we can actually put a fairing on the front here. Actually, maybe we should make these things just a little bit bigger so that they keep the thing stable longer. And we'll put some stuff up the front here. So let's actually, maybe we should put on a parachute that, oh, you know, maybe we should put the parachutes down the bottom and replace this nose cone, because nose cones I find have some habits of falling off here. There we go, nose cone, and you can scale that down beautifully. See that? 0.313. Everyone's happy. I'm gonna throttle this thing back a little more. We're just gonna get some experiments airborne, right? I'm gonna put the thrust at maybe 9. Does it give me my surface thrust to mass ratio is gonna be 5.7. This thing won't get anywhere near space. In fact, it won't fulfill any of the contract requirements, but I think I can put parachutes on this. If I take the radial mount chutes, stick them right down the bottom here, and we'll do 2 of them, and of course scale these things down. Maybe not 10%, maybe 30%, 25%. Let's do 25%. That will no doubt be a perfect example. And then opposite these, we can put some science experiments, such as the pressure mat barometer. There we go. We're going to pressure mat, whoever mat is. And then we're going to put the thermometer on the other side. Oh, yeah. Wait a second. Oh, yes, we need to fix the symmetry in this. Hold on. Nope, not that, not that, not that, not that. That's what we want. And it put them on the opposite sides now. Excellent. Okay, so we have a stable spacecraft. I could also put this biological sample canister on it. How big is that? That's rather big. I don't think I'm going to try that. Okay, let's launch this after I've fixed the... Hold on. After I have fixed my staging. So hopefully this thing will not tear itself apart this time. And after last time's failure, we decide that it might be better not to invite anyone. In fact, they're so ashamed of the failure of the previous item that they decide to do it at night. But then again, rockets are hardly things that you're not going to see in the middle of the night. Okay, insufficient avionics, let's go! Sweet! Let's start collecting scientific data. Oh, no! Okay, well now we're spinning like a crazy thing there. Still, we have science in here somewhere, if I can hit it. No, 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 no. Okay, let's deploy the chutes. Maybe those will stabilize our descent. Or maybe not. This is going to be very fun. There's the full parachutes opening here. Come on. Where are you? There. Log pressure data. There, we got that. Okay. And can we get some science data? Nope. Why did I put the here? Come on. There we go. Log temperature. Log temperature. Excellent. Okay, now the last one. Wobbling pendulously about underneath. I have to hit the analyze telemetry button as it just floats past. Telemetry! We got telemetry analysis. We have a bunch of science. And now we're hopefully going to return this to the ground in one piece. And be able to actually do some more science. There we go. Time accelerate, please. We need to get to the ground. Hey, everything survived. Let's recover the vessel and see what we have got for our troubles. Okay, so that Tiny Tim booster in reality was used as it was actually used as a booster. It was originally an air-to-ground missile, but they used it as a booster for sounding rockets, such as the Whack Corporal, which was the first, well, it was a prototype of the Corporal, which became the first US missile that was allowed to carry nuclear weapons. I'm trying to find my parts here. So yeah, we have this little engine, which is from the Aerobee rocket, so it's not technically the same engine, but I think it does have the same kind of fuel as the original, which was, let me just see, it uses fuming nitric acid, red fuming nitric acid, that's RFNA, and aniline, right? And it also has furfuryl alcohol. Wow, there's all sorts of cool stuff here. This is really toxic rocket fuel. Yeah, rocket fuel isn't just hydrogen and oxygen, which some people seem to think. The only fuel tanks we have are these big ones, but we do thankfully have procedural real fuels tanks. We can stick that on the front, shrink the diameter down to something manageable. It needs to be 3.13 meters. And we'll stick this on here. So that tells us our surface thrust to weight ratio. Well, I can extend this. We can make this longer. This is a pressurized fuel tank. This engine is pressure fed. We'll make it longer until we get down to about... Oh, how long is this? 5 meters? 6 meters? Really? How's my thrust to weight ratio 9.04? That's kind of crazy. Well, let's make it 7 meters long. Does it give me delta V stats here, or it doesn't? Oh, of course, I should actually fill the rocket. And now my thrust to weight ratio is down to 1, so let's shrink this just a bit. 1.15, we'll make it a 5 meter sounding rocket here. Now, underneath this, or rather attached to this, let's put some of these fins, which have proven so useful in the past. And we want 4 of these. Oh, let's do 3 of these actually. And now they actually don't look so ridiculously oversized, but maybe I'll weaken the mass just a bit. Now, okay, procedural stack decoupler, because that's the only thing that lets us shrink the stuff down to the right size. And once again, it's decided to shrink a little too much. With procedural parts, I've found that making very small parts can be incredibly dangerous. Things can just snap because the small parts are too weak, or they can fall apart simply because the parts are the strength is too weak, or they can just break in the heat. Okay, so I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to put a decoupler at the nose here. So we'll decouple this, and then we'll try and put an instrument package on the nose cone here so we can collect some sort of scientific data here. Oh, laxity. Oh, I could put a fuselage fairing on here, so I need a fuselage base, right? Do we have... oh yeah, no, of course you just use standard aerodynamic parts here. Yeah, this is the one. We'll stick this on here. Look at the size of that thing. Look at the size of that thing. 1 meter, 0.1 meter, 0.313. That's the size we're working with here. Okay, so now I should be able to attach this. We don't actually care about jettisoning our fairings in this case, but we do want 2 of them. And finally, I think we're going to need something to hold it stable. We do need a launch stability enhancer. That is looking rather marvelous here. Okay, that is going to take 40 days to build. Let's get our scientists on it. Oh, and before we do the building, we should actually start researching some other stuff. Supersonic flight. It's going to be ready in 132 days. So supersonic flight adds this, the XLR-11 pressure-fed throttleable engine. It's used by the X-planes. I believe it might have been the one used in the Bell X1, but I would have to actually look that up to verify it. But I'm pretty sure that's the one that it's supposed to be. Okay, warped complete. And it finishes during the daylight. So we're rather more proud of this one, and we're going to let the world see it. But just in case it fails after it gets through the clouds, we have the clouds running. Okay, launch. It would actually be kind of cool if there were contracts that required that you wait for a, you know, clear day or something. That might be funny. Kind of pointless, but why? Okay, something exploded. What was that? The fairing base ring exploded due to overheating. Okay, so here we are, ready to launch our new super-powered, higher capable missile. And it hasn't exploded. Sometimes when you load this, parts will randomly explode due to thermal heating, for no apparent reason. Okay, so before we launch this, we need to actually do a bunch of things. First of all, we need to make sure that all our engines are in the same stage, because this engine quite often fails if you fire it after stage separation because all the fuel is wanting to run upwards. So if you at least fire it while it's on the test stand or a fraction of a second before, then you will waste at most 1 second of fuel during this stage. So it's okay, it's not, you know, standard procedure, but I think it will work just fine. And ready, set, launch. And there we go. The sustainer kicks in and we start moving. We're accelerating, isn't that great? We're actually accelerating upwards here. Although, it does appear that we're starting to move slightly off of the vertical. Hopefully we can at least hit the altitude that we are aiming for. Okay, 145, 140. Oh, we're really starting to pick up some speed now. Come on, I wonder if this will break through the Mach 1 barrier. Show that Chuck Yeager that, you know, robots can do just as well. Okay, so we're now up to about 5 kilometers. We should collect some science data here. Or maybe we already have this. What was that? That was the launch clamps, apparently. Well, there's no point collecting data at this altitude. Maybe we shall get higher yet, though. Come, now. 250. Oh, now really picking up speed. 270, 280. We still have about 1 minute and 10 seconds to burn on this rocket here. I think I should have made this smaller, to be honest. If I'd made this smaller, it would have accelerated faster and perhaps gone higher and faster. We are through the sound barrier. And no, that isn't a shadow trail of ours, that is just a flaw in the landscape. Okay, Apoaps is going up to 20 kilometers, so at least we should be... We've completed contracts here, we've beat our uncrewed speed, we've set an altitude record. So actually we'll have some more money to play with now that we've demonstrated our ability to actually fly rockets and everything. Not sure we're going to collect any more science. Oh look, wonderful artifacts from visual enhancements here. Great, let's point it in the other direction so we don't have to look at that. You can see the hugely busy metropolis below us and the way that it extends into the water. That's unfortunately more things you have to deal with when you're working with visual overhauls here. So unfortunately they don't have... Oh, we beat 600. And we beat 20 kilometers. That's good. I've seen it sometimes that the records don't automatically update. That has got a whole bunch of records in this mission here. Okay, so let's trigger the temperature. Log temperature. Temperature scan while flying over Kerbal shores. Oh, it's a new biome. Great. Pressure map barometer. Oh, I've already used it. Darn. Okay, well, so much for that. I wasted it when I was early in the flight. I guess I can't run experiments here. Analyze that telemetry, though. We got all sorts of new information. And before this starts to go wrong, I'm gonna jettison this whole thing, I think. Yes! Excellent! Oh yeah, I just realized the parachute is inside the fairings. And that means that it won't work. So I have broken records, but unfortunately due to a design flaw, yeah, those fairings don't jettison, do they? They're just structural fairings. Well, that was all very nice and completely pointless. This is some of the fun you get up to when you're playing a Kerbal Space Program with completely new rule sets. All sorts of things catch you out. And I find it really quite refreshing. I just wish the game wasn't so ridiculously buggy with all these mods installed. It's really a pain to get anything done. And not having a shadow on the ground is, frankly, it's a deal breaker for me right now. So if anybody knows how to make this work, I would love to know. But until then, I'll be doing other smaller scale videos until I start a full series. I'm Scott Manley. Fly safe.